Everybody get up, no need to cram now. We got a real jam going down, going down, going down, going down, going down, going down. Welcome to the IntelliJAMS.
We're jamming. Alex, what's going on, man? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. I think it is your turn to pick the jam topic. So,
Okay,
what do you want to jam
let's
on?
jam. Last week we jammed on AI, and I want to continue that. One of the things we talked about is like how you have your site, and we help you optimize that site for humans, people that go to your site. And obviously, there's been SEO has been an industry for a long time, and optimizing your site to be readable by the crawlers, the robots of the web. There's this new thing that's popping up around LLMs. And I'm just curious, I want to jam on, should marketers be thinking about how to use LLMs as a growth channel? And maybe the answer to that is obvious. It's yes. But how should marketers be thinking about LLMs as a growth channel?
I don't know if it is an obvious yes.
Okay.
I think I think it's a yes, but I don't know if it's everyone should drop what they're doing and focus on this. I think there's a bubble that exists, and you and I were actually talking about this in a different context a few days ago, where it's you and I live in a world where we're very similar. We do similar things for work. We have similar interests. We are more or less similar on the Internet of Things. And we were talking about buying things on AI, and we were both yeah, obviously I've bought something through AI. And I was oh man, I don't know if everyone does that. And you're of course everyone does. I was my wife hasn't, guarantee my mom hasn't, my sisters aren't, my family, my friend group is not doing that. So I think that creating experiences and trying to use LLMs for marketing, to me, it feels at the beginning of my career when I got into marketing was at the dawn of kind of content marketing and SEO, like you mentioned. And at the time, we invested really heavily in it, and it paid dividends for us, but it took a lot of time. And we were fortunate that we were a smaller company, and we could make that bet and just continue to hit that and ride the wave.
Yeah.
This feels like a very similar situation to me. I'm looking at AI search in the same lens. It feels very similar to SEO and content marketing kind of 10 years ago. It feels there's something here that has the potential to be big. Will it get big? I don't know, but it feels like something to be paying attention to, if that makes sense.
So I just looked up. I'll ask you if you could guess. How many weekly active users do you think ChatGPT has?
Weekly active users. Tens of millions? Hundreds of millions?
Hundreds of millions. 800 million weekly active users. So for context, there are 350 million people in the United States. There are, 8 billion people in the world. But so 10% of the worldwide population has used ChatGPT in the last 7 days. And there's a substantial percentage of the world's population that doesn't have access to the internet and smartphones. So that means that a lot of people are using ChatGPT. It's not long until they start asking ChatGPT for buying recommendations, right? We can't be, that's why to me it's so obviously resounding yes. Maybe your mom and your sister don't yet, but it's not going to be long until your mom and your sister and my grandma were all using ChatGPT to figure out how to buy stuff. Because how else are we going to do it? Go to a store?
Go to a store, I don't know, for that's a crazy high number. And yeah, like you said, if you just look at internet users, it's probably going up to 25-30% of people who have
the
access
world's internet users
are using it. And again, my sister does use ChatGPT. She's just not using it to buy things. She more uses it to be I don't know, help me write a response to friend that has problem or something like that. But for me, the marketing situation here is it's very similar to what SEO promised kind of 10 years ago. For me, there's two kind of content channels for everything. I like to categorize it into a push and a pull. Push, what messages am I going to throw out there into the market, usually paying for them.
Mhm.
Paid social, and like in the D2C world, the most people listening to this, like the vast majority of your advertising budget is in meta ads. Those are all push. How can I get a message out there in front of someone? But in B2B SaaS, and now in this world with like AI opening up in D2C, is there's a lot more of this pull, right?
Mhm.
Someone has a question, someone has a problem. They're going to go on the hunt for information. And when they have that like idea, that problem, that question, I want to make sure that I am at the forefront of answering that question and pulling them in to discover more about, in our case, IntelliJAMS, testing, price testing, like finding information like that. So I think like that from a marketing perspective, like that's the future, is like we've been so heavy on push style messaging, and SEO for the most part, at least from my perspective, has been like waning for the last little bit. And that was always the great pull strategy. And now this comes up and it's like reinvigorating me to be like, and I mean, you
Yeah.
know this, like we're creating a lot more content for this than we like did, but we did a lot of push. And now I'm like,
So
man, we need the pull.
yeah, so okay, so let's say that if this is a pendulum, I don't know that pendulum is the right word, but let's say we're swinging towards pull, and that like instead of being able to push content at people, they are able to very efficiently query answers to the questions that they're looking for. You're a marketer, you run marketing at IntelliGEMS. What's the strategy? How do you generate, I mean, I don't know that we've figured this out yet, but like, what's your theory about what the strategy is here in order to get the right content out there to like be discoverable by an LLM?
So my theory so far, and again, this can be wrong. From the research that I've been doing on it, there's kind of two things. There's like your owned resources and unowned resources. So the difference there, our owned resources, our app listing, our website. These are all things where like I control the content on. And then all these unknown channels where it's like Reddit, forums, review platforms, even social, like what is happening on Twitter, what are people saying on different platforms. From what I can gather, it is a mix of these two things for different applications. What is the best price testing tool for Shopify? That's
Mm-hmm.
going to go search across the internet for people's opinions. Like, what are people saying about particular things? Does IntelliGEMS do X, Y, and Z? That's going to go look at our own channels. Like when it's looking for like specifications, tech specs, that sort of stuff, it's going to hit your own channels. When it's looking for more of like, hey, what are people thinking? What is like, not necessarily consensus, but what are the people's opinions out there on like what's good, what's not? That's where it's going to crawl some of these other sources. So for me as a marketer, I want to make sure that like the things that are important to us are like those messages from a push perspective are getting out there. People are trying to use kind of shared languages, whether it's like our team, our partners, our customers, make sure that that's out there, and then build up answers to questions that people might have on our own channels. So when it gets to that specific, like, what about IntelliGEMS? It's right there for you.
Yeah. One thing, and you know, as and what's also interesting is that like each of these LLMs are different, and the way they train is different, and the way they all work, and they're all black boxes. But are they
Yep.
reading the internet? Are they reading your site? Are they reading Reddit and reviews? Is it based on trained, like data from a year ago, right? So there's like a lot of question about, and each of the models might be different from Gemini to Anthropic to ChatGPT. Um, I also I also wonder this concept of paid versus organic. And right now, everything in an LLM is like organic, right? Like you
Yep.
can't pay these LLMs to sponsor your content. And you talk a little bit about like pull and pull being SEO, but I think that paid search is another like in between form of pull where like I was talking to a brand today that sells like caskets for, for burial, and their main form of their main budget is in paid search because
Makes a ton of sense.
you can't do paid social to, for caskets because like the timing is like you need to like get it right at the right timing. But like when someone searches like caskets online or whatever, that's like a really obviously biddable term. And so there's like, you can like meet pull with paid. So anyway, I guess where I'm going with this is like, you can't pay an LLM to sponsor your content. Does that mean that this is like free acquisition? Like, is it as free as being like search engine optimized? How do we scale it? I don't know. Like, I don't know. It's like, is this potentially a new frontier of really efficient traffic?
I actually think so. That's why I was comparing it to like 10 years ago, because when search was just becoming a thing, you didn't have to pay for it either. But like when you're like, hey, you don't have to pay for this, the caveat here should be yet. You don't have to pay for it yet. Like, we live in a capitalistic society. Someone is going to capitalize on this, but like, hey, how much of this can we squeeze right now for free? Right? Like, hey, this is all organic. It is, everything is in the, I don't know, the mindset of like the shopper, the searcher, the person using it is like priority number one. But there will come a time where like we or a brand can like pay to jump in here and have like sponsored content. That's what happened in search. It will definitely happen inside of this. For now, though, this definitely does seem like a free pull channel if you can get it right. Now, getting it right now seems like again, feels like 10 years ago in SEO. Like, what do? Don't do black hat stuff. Like, hey, try to be as like helpful as possible. Don't try to like stuff thing. Like, instead of keyword stuffing, now it's probably like, don't go and pay for fake reviews. Don't go and like try to like pay people to say something very specific somewhere. It's like, how do you get kind of this like organic thought happening out there? And then how do I be as useful, helpful as possible? Like, if you go check out IntelliJAMS.io, go to our resource section and check out the blogs. They're all blogs designed to help you guys answer questions, not by IntelliJAMS per se. Am I priced appropriately? Can I charge for shipping? These are all great questions that you guys have that do have answers.
Yeah. I mean, I think what's an interesting topic to sort of branch off from here is trust. And you talk about paying for reviews, paying for, priority in terms of like, I don't know, search responsiveness in an LLM would in one way maybe create less trust of the LLM, right? Like, if I knew as a consumer that ChatGPT was going to serve me sponsored content instead of just like what it thinks is the best content, then I might be less inclined to use it or to trust it. Meanwhile, I still use Google search in the top. Like, I know, like, it's no secret that the top 1 to 3 results, they are even labeled as sponsored. Like, so I don't know. I guess how much, as a consumer, if you put your consumer hat on, how much trust do you feel like would be eroded if the LLMs were sponsored? And B, well, I'll start with that. How much importance do you think that the independence of the LLMs has for you right now with trust?
So I don't know if it's a trust thing as much as it's like an adoption thing. When you want rapid adoption of something, you don't flood it with ads. Look at literally everything that has happened over the last decade. Search is one example. Social media is another. Social was not riddled with ads when it first came out. Instagram comes out and everyone's like, I'm going to use Instagram, blah, blah, blah. Now there's sponsored content everywhere in Instagram. So for me, it's not necessarily that it's going to erode the trust. If you do it the right way, it shouldn't. Like, even in search, like, yes, those top 3 are sponsored, but like, it's very clear that like this is sponsored content. At least like they're not hiding it. People might mistake that or whatever. So I don't know if it erodes the trust. I do think that like this concept you had of like, hey, there's this free time. There is going to be free time here. because like we need adoption. And if people feel like it's just an ad machine out the gate, then you won't get the adoption. So I do think we have some buffer here to get there before kind of this like pay to play sponsored rolls in. I mean, maybe it's not as long as I thought. If we're at like 35% of the internet using this every single day, maybe my buffer I'm talking about is like 2 months.
I mean, you and I were, and I think this is fair to talk about, but you and I were looking at some like spot checking a few brands, our own website included, and we were seeing, fractions of a percent of traffic UTM source ChatGPT. So it was like, 0.1% here, 0.3% there. IntelliJAMS app listing was actually like 1.5%. And that was the highest thing that we saw. And we're like, oh, well, it makes sense. People buying software are maybe a little bit more, tech heavy. But I actually pulled some data across our customer base, and there are definitely brands that have meaningful traffic. I set the threshold at 100,000 visitors a month. And so there are brands with 100,000 visitors a month where 2%, meaning 2,000 of those 100,000 visitors plus were ChatGPT source, which is a pretty high number in my opinion.
Yeah. And like 2%, again, like think about someone ending up on your site through that source. I asked a question. I'm interacting with an agent. I'm probably pretty high intent.
Yeah.
Again, you and I have also talked about like
how much revenue is attributable. I could probably do that as a really quick follow on, but like, yeah.
Yeah. And like, even you and I were talking about a bit about this too, is like when I'm trying to evaluate the effectiveness of this channel for IntelliJAMS, I don't even necessarily, that's not true. I do care about how many people are coming through this channel to us, but I also like am very interested in like how much are we sourced inside of these searches. Like maybe Adam has a question about pricing, asks it into ChatGPT, our content's coming up talking about IntelliJAMS. You don't click through to the site right there, but we are now a trusted source on that thing that you were looking for. And then you go and you hit it through an ad or through search or from a direct hit, but it was influenced inside of there. And I think like there's two pieces here. There's going to be like that direct path of like, yo, I searched this thing, I'm ready to buy, take me there to go buy it. And then there's going to be this kind of like research and like information gathering that's happening, that if you can be the leader in that information gathering and be there for everyone, hey, you're probably going to get a lot of people coming back through a different channel too.
Yeah. Cool. There's still so much unknown here, but I'm super excited to track this. Free growth channels don't come around every day. So I think we're on maybe the cusp of something. I mean, there's a lot of things that we're on the cusp of, but there's a very narrow cusp of something that we're on here.
AI is going to change a lot of things. This is definitely one of the good ones. There might be some other stuff on the way too.
Yeah.
Let's take advantage while we can.
For sure. Free money.